We are going to start a new series. This one's going to be all about vitamin education. So what you're giving in your infusion, how it works, not just how it works, but how does it work at the cellular level and the different doses or ways you can administer it. What's the difference? So we're going to start that today. First of all, my name is Tiffany. I am an RN. I own a mobile infusion company, and I also teach nurses how to start their own infusion businesses. And let me tell you, vitamin education, I know like the back of my hand. I have done an excessive amount of hours of research and studying this, but it's because I want my patients to be very confident in that we are coming to them to the infusion and we are the most educated. But also, I think it's very important to know what you're giving and why and how it works, not just what someone may tell you the 12 things that it helps with, but it really only helps with like 1 or 2 of those things. And so I like to be very transparent and teach nurses the same thing. So we're going to start off today talking about B12. This is a very easy one, but there's actually a lot more that goes into it than what you would think. So cobalamin is B12. And I know in nursing school, I think we maybe learned a little bit about oh, hey, B12 helps with energy, but that's about as far as it made it. I did not think, before I even got into the infusion aspect, I did not think vitamins were very helpful. That was my ignorance. I did not do any research. I did not understand how this stuff worked. I just thought, oh, we're just going to give some vitamins, or I'm going to take vitamins. It'll make me extra healthy, but I could never take them and also be fine. That is very wrong. Our body needs a lot of these vitamins, actually all of the ones that our body either makes or uses. It is used at the cellular level, and a lot of what we focus on is going to be helping our cells be able to be healthier that way whenever we age. First of all, so we feel better day in and day out, but also as we age, we're not supposed to be like crap and old and be 60 and feel like we're 60. There's things that we can actually do to help us stay functional and feeling good and not diseased, and that comes into cell health. So we're going to start with B12. So B12, like I said, cobalamin is B12. There's different forms of B12. There is hydroxycobalamin, cyanocobalamin, and methylcobalamin. The most common one that you will see if you go look at Walmart, literally any store, or some of the energy drinks that are like have energy or natural energy, and you look at the back, it's 99% cyanocobalamin. This is B12. It's probably the least, it's not probably, it's the least form to give. So that cyano part in the front of it, cyanocobalamin, is a part of a cyanide molecule. It's not going to harm us drinking it or taking it because our body will unbind that. It'll get rid of it, but essentially you're putting a toxin in order to break it down and get the B12 off of it. That is a very ineffective way of giving it. And actually once it, goes through all of its processes of breaking down, you don't get as much out of it because of the form that it is, and your body just has to go through so many steps to break it down. That is why also, if you've ever had people say, I got a B12 shot and I couldn't tell a difference. Well, 9 times out of 10, it's because they got the wrong dose and the wrong form of it. I've had several patients that I have given B12 to that have told me oh, it doesn't work. And I'm like, I'm telling you, it's the wrong dose and the wrong form you've had. And I talk them into it. And I always text my patients the next day to say, just check in and see how they're doing. And they're like, oh, I could tell a difference. I'm like, ding, ding, ding. It's because you have the right dose and the right form. And so the next best form is going to be, so least is cyanocobalamin. Hydroxycobalamin is probably the middle one. It's better, but the best form is going to be methylcobalamin. It's the methylated form. And this is because it is the most, I guess you could say, pure form that you are giving your body, and it doesn't have to go through as many steps to break down. Let me tell you a quick story about B12 and how I was learned that it is so effective. For our business last year, we set up a booth at the fair, and my idea was, for whatever reason, I was going to staff it almost every day, and I staffed it. I was there open to close every day except for the last day. I came in half a day late, and so that's 9 days of 12 or 13 hours. I cannot imagine doing that at a hospital, but let alone, it was just rough. And so we were doing a lot of injections at the fair just because, sometimes people don't want to sit there for 45 minutes and get an infusion. B12 was one of the things that we were advertising. And we did a lot to just like the people at the fair, but we had a lot of vendors, like other people who were there with me working the same hours at their booth, come up to me probably like halfway through the fair, day 4 or 5, and be like, "Oh, you're doing B12. Does that really work for energy?" And I'm like, "Well, I know it helps with energy, but if you're drinking 2 or 3 energy drinks a day, I don't really know how effective it's going to be." But yes, and of course, out of their desperation, they're like, "It's fine, I'll do it. Here's my $25. And I cannot tell you how many of those people came back to me the next day and they were like, "Oh my gosh, that helps so much. When can I do another one?" And so we actually could do 2 in 1 week. You wouldn't do it back to back. But anyways, that's where I kind of had that aha, like, oh, how much can it help to bring? So then I was doing B12 injections at home, and let me tell you, it actually does make day and night of a difference. And so when our patients are like, "Okay, well, how does it help me?" We are all programmed to think that energy comes like kind of like a caffeine spike, just because that's how most of us, when we're tired, we go to caffeine. B12 is very different. B12 obviously is a natural energy, so it more feels like you can keep going, but there's no crash with it. You don't have this like spike where it's like, "Oh, it's kicked in." It's kind of just, you feel like you can keep going, and you're like, it's kind of like you feel like you should sleep, and it doesn't keep you up at night. If you give it before you go to bed, it's not a form that's going to keep you up. It just keeps your body, it gives it sustained energy. You just kind of feel like you can keep going. But again, it's not a stimulant, so it doesn't keep you up. And so from there, that's kind of when we added it to our protocol that we do, just our monthly wellness infusions. And we have just had a lot of patients tell us how much they love it and how helpful it is. B12 is a water-soluble vitamin, which means that if you have excess of it, you're just going to pee it out. So for patients who have done it, a couple months, I will always tell them, because it is kind of a maroon color, kind of like the mic. I don't know if you can see it. It literally is like that color. So I'll tell them, if you start normally after 3 or 4 months, again, it depends. Everybody's a little bit different. You can just see that color in your urine, and don't worry, it's not blood, because it just, B12 can tint it, especially if it's water soluble and you've been getting it for a couple of months. You are going to lose some excess of it in your pee. But that is B12. So to sum it up, cyanocobalamin is the worst. I would not even recommend getting that. There's a lot of companies that offer it. I am just going to believe that it's a lack of education. They don't know. That's the worst form to get. Hydroxycobalamin, that's going to be the next best form. This is the one that we'll use if for some reason all of our pharmacies are out of methylcobalamin, but the best form is going to be methylcobalamin. And the good thing also is there is a gene deficiency. It left my mind, but pretty much what it is people who have methylation issues, which means if you give them a form of B12 that is not methylated, their body actually can't use it anyway. So using methylated B12 helps for so many different reasons, but it also covers that like small percentage of patients that do have this gene mutation. So that is B12. Next Wednesday, we're going to talk about glutathione. Glutathione and NAD are my absolute favorite and can play so much of a difference, but there's so much to them. And so I cannot wait to teach you about it. Remember, like, subscribe, follow for more. That way you get notified each time I upload a video. You guys have a great night.